Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is 5x5 and I'm Simo. If you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button so you're notified when new videos come out. And we're back talking about Westworld. Westworld Season 3 has premiered and it was on my radar, and I am now gonna finally get a chance to get into Westworld with you guys. Now before I get into anything, I want to let everyone know that this is a recap and review episode. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, go watch it and then come back before watching this video, because this is a spoiler heavy video. So the opening scene with Dolores is amazing. We're catching up with all of our favorite characters from the previous seasons. Of course, Dolores is going to be the big one we want to catch up with first, or one of the first. And so she shows up in this super rich guy's amazing palatial house, and it's stunning how nice it is and how poor you feel just watching it. Unless you're watching this thinking, oh yeah, that's like my house, in which case invite me over for dinner, man. I'm free. So she's there because she knows that she's new to this new world and she's going to need money in this new world. So she shows up there thinking she's going to get this guy's money, and she does. The scene is really fantastic. She kills the guy. She basically tricks him into killing himself in the same way that his ex-wife did. The next scene opens with a new character this season. His name is Caleb, and he appears to be very different from what we've seen previously. He's a working class type guy. He's a gig economy worker. He works running fiber cable most of the time, and the rest of the time he supplements his income with side jobs. But he's not one of the wealthy elite that we're used to seeing in this story and in this world so far. So he's a pretty big departure from that. In one of the future scenes coming up, it's also revealed that he's one of the primary caregivers, or the primary caregiver of his mother, who's in a hospital bed. Coming back to Caleb, he uses a really crazy app similar to like Tinder that matches you to a potential client. He uses it for work, but it's all crime based. It's called Rico. It's kind of funny. Just interesting. That's how he gets his work, though. He'll open up Rico, and Rico will show him the next criminal job he can take to supplement his income, and matches him up with the client. Continuing on with Caleb, through just following his daily life, we see some of the things that he's going through. He's waking up in his apartment, very small, modest apartment compared to the super rich, opulent apartment that we saw Dolores visiting in the first scene. And we follow his sort of job search. His daily life includes a job search. When he's not working, he's doing criminal jobs, but he is looking for stable, normal work. But we also learned that there's some sort of society management system in place that matches people and their aptitudes to work. So depending on what your skills and abilities are, this system will match you to employment. But inherent in a system like that is a class system, because it's essentially a computer-run meritocracy. Inherently, it's going to create a class system. People will only succeed if the system believes you have the skills necessary to succeed, and anyone else is not going to get promoted. That might be appealing to some people, but obviously that means everyone's lives are predetermined from them based on their aptitudes and testing scores. Other big flaw in that is who is in charge of the system, and is it an honest system? Because a system like that would obviously be easily gamed and manipulated to keep the wealthy and elite at the top of the food chain, while everyone else just serves their interests in whatever way. In the next scene, we catch up with Charlotte. She's back at the head office of Delos, and she is boss. She is completely in charge. She's taken over. She's scary. We don't know who's in her body. Whoever it is totally in charge. And Delos and its shareholders are trying to decide how they're going to recover the company and the park and get out of the situation that they found themselves in. Because as we know from the last season, the park went nuts and killed everybody. So, of course, this has been in the media. They've got lots of bad press. A lot of people died, and they're trying to recover their business. Charlotte's big idea is that they take the company private, so they are no longer obligated to be transparent about their financing. Allows them to hide any disreputable transactions and audits and all of that. For whatever reason, she has authority that's backed up by machine proxy. So Charlotte essentially steamrolls over the entire boardroom and all of the shareholders. She's completely in charge. Next, we catch up with Bernard, who is working somewhere very tropical, presumably in Asia. It turns out he's working at some sort of humane slaughterhouse facility, and he's living off the grid, essentially. He's under an assumed name. He's being scapegoated as the cause of all of the drama at the Delos theme park, so he's hiding out under an assumed name in a working class job at this slaughterhouse. In one of the scenes, we see him actually putting himself into diagnostic mode that he used to go under in the previous 2 seasons. He uses that to make sure no one is altering his programming or taking control of him. It's pretty interesting to see him use this remote to do it, whereas the other hosts, of course, have the programming that makes them aware and not need to switch over into instruction mode. I'm not sure why he decided to do that. Maybe that'll be revealed later in the season. There's this really cool infographic that keeps popping up in between some of the scenes. It's a white screen with a representation of a globe and all of the signals coming off of the globe, and it appears to be monitoring signals, and the system that's monitoring them is noting any irregularities. That kind of comes into play later on. I'll mention where it comes into play as we go. So when we catch back up with Dolores, we find out she needed money because she's trying to hunt someone in the world for some reason that obviously hasn't been revealed yet. And her prey appears to be this guy named Liam Dempsey. He's the son of a very successful computer developer, and he's in charge of his father's company. So she's trying to get close to him, presumably to get access to the tech of the company. She's hunting Liam Dempsey, and part of that is getting close to him and playing the girlfriend role. And so she gets an opportunity to hang out with him at a party at a nightclub with a couple of his friends, and they're having this really interesting exchange. And one of Dempsey's friends gets really existential, and he poses the question of, what if they're living in a simulation? What if they're a simulation in a simulation? Which is, of course, complete gibberish to a bunch of people partying at a party. It's not like that's the most original thought someone who was drunk or high at a club ever came up with. But he poses it, and it is an interesting question in the context of a show like this. We'll come back to that later, though. Switching back to Caleb, we are still going through Caleb's daily life, and we're finding out more about him. In addition to him being a criminal, working-class guy, he's also ex-military, and he seems to be struggling with PTSD. He's having recurring nightmares of his life in the military, and he's seeing some sort of therapy for his PTSD. And in his job searching and treatment for PTSD, we also find out that the world that everyone is living in, because they're all assigned work and jobs, they're also assigned places in society, and their place in society is essentially evaluated and decided by their net worth. So people with a higher net worth are treated better than people with a lower net worth. Yeah, that's not suggestive. Basically, this world is a neoliberal hell. There's no way to get around that. It's total neoliberal hell. Switching back to Dolores again, she is getting to know Liam Dempsey, and in her quest to get his technology or whatever, she is learning more about him. Dempsey admits to her at one point that he used to, this is just an interesting scene, but he admits to her at one point that he used to, as a kid, feel really upset because he questioned whether his father cared more about the sphere or him, and he was really shook when he realized as an adult that it wasn't even a close competition. For the sphere, get it? For the sphere. Just to clarify, the tech that his father's company developed is a giant sphere, which is being called Rehobola. I'll speculate now and say that all of these white screens that are monitoring for signals across the globe and around the world are the Rehobola system monitoring people's behavior. Dempsey talks a little bit about the purpose of the Rehobola, and the purpose, based on his father's vision, is that his father believed everyone had a potential that was being unfulfilled, and if there was some way to figure out everyone's potential, they could properly be assigned a purpose and have a more meaningful life. And the idea behind Rehobola is presumably that Rehobola monitors everyone's purpose and make sure that everyone is being the most productive version of themselves and engaging in a life that's most ideal for their skills and talents. Rehobola is most likely the system that has been managing everybody's life, and it's probably also the system that's the white screens that we've been seeing monitoring irregularities in behavior and signals. And Rehobola is this giant sphere that Dolores and Ian Dempsey are now looking at in the scene. Meanwhile, back with Bernard at the slaughterhouse, his cover gets blown. Some of the other workers, they recognize him from, I guess, a wanted picture, and they confront him about his real name and whatnot, and he switches himself into robot mode and gives himself instructions to take the other workers out, and so he does, and then he's on the run, and he's on his way back to Westworld. For whatever reason, he's decided that this incident means he has to go back to Westworld. We'll see why. Most of the rest of the episode focuses on Dolores and her effort to get close to Ian Dempsey. So she has a date with Dempsey later at night. Her cover is blown. One of Dempsey's thugs knocks her out with a stun gun, and the thug points out that he did a background check on her originally and it panned out, but when he took a closer look, he discovered that her identity was totally fake. And so they're going to get rid of her. They don't know who she is, they don't trust her, they're just going to get rid of her. And she's completely incapacitated still by the stun gun. They're moving her body and they're about to, what looks like they're going to dump her in a river or something like that and let her drown. And she's totally immobilized in an air car, I guess. But of course, Dolores is an android, for lack of a better word, and so she's faking being incapacitated by this stun gun. She's using the opportunity to play possum, play dead, and let everyone around her talk and give her all the information that she's looking for. They're all assuming she's incapacitated, so they're not being really strict about the things they're talking about. They're not being very secretive. So the situation is really kind of interesting because up until this point, we knew Dolores was hunting someone or something. We thought it was Dempsey, and we thought she was after the information in Rehobola, but she was after a few things, I guess. She was after whoever was in charge of Rehobola and the sphere, and she was hunting whoever controlled it. She thought that was Liam Dempsey, but he points out that his position is largely superficial and he's not actually in charge of anything. When she recovers, she takes out all of Dempsey's forces. It's a pretty spectacular fight scene. She shows up with a clone of Dempsey's lead thug. So it looks like the entire thing was a setup. She was playing dead. We thought she was playing dead to capture or question or interrogate Liam Dempsey, but she was actually prepared to replace Dempsey's lead thug with another host because she shows up with a copy of the lead thug. So after she takes everyone out, she replaces the thug. I don't know his name. So switching back to Caleb, he gets hired for another anonymous criminal job, and he shows up and meets Dempsey's thugs and gives them some drugs. Those drugs end up being the drugs that they use to tranquilize Dolores when she arrives and keep her tranquilized before the final fight scene that she has. And he walks off after that. Meanwhile, on his little walk, he's talking to his virtual therapist. He's doing therapy basically over a phone call or a comm line, and the therapist's voice takes on the personality of his best friend who he lost, I guess, in battle during his military service. And the conversation kind of goes sideways because the therapist bot mischaracterizes the ideas of this friend that Caleb had lost. So the bot fundamentally misunderstands Caleb's friend's motivations, and it becomes a giveaway to Caleb. Caleb's like, wait, I can't do this. You're not real. I know my friend is not with us anymore, and I'm going to just give up on this therapy thing. And he ends that. But it was really interesting because apparently the friend had some sort of philosophy that went something to the effect of, if the game is rigged, you still have to play if you want to have a chance to win. But the real idea behind his friend's philosophy was the system doesn't care about us at all and doesn't care if we live or die, but you have to have your own plan and stick together if you're going to survive. So it's pretty easy to see how that, like, those are pretty distinctly different ideas and philosophies for life. So it's pretty easy to see how Caleb would get turned on by that fundamental misunderstanding. Or is it a misunderstanding? Is this AI that has been giving him therapy just trying to smooth him over and handle him so that he doesn't question the society he's living in with more radical ideas like the ones his friend used to have? Through the events of Dolores' final battle, we find out from the thug that she replaces that the guy in charge of the Rehobola spear is named Surik, and that is who her next target is going to be. She's going after this guy, I guess, to get control of Rehobola, or to learn more about it anyway. The episode leaves off with Dolores wandering injured after her battle with all of the thugs and connecting with Caleb, who was wandering around after delivering the drugs that were eventually used on Dolores. So the question I would say at this point was, this a random meeting between Caleb and Dolores, or was this somehow engineered? Did somehow Dolores plan this because she had really demonstrated ability to be like 10 steps ahead in all of the previous scenarios? So this might have been kind of her plan, that she would get this guy to deliver the drugs, and then afterwards she would run into him and befriend him. I think it's a fair question to ask if this is a chance encounter or if it was by design and engineered. We will see. Now, coming back to one of the original ideas that I brought up, back at the party Liam and Dolores were at when they were talking to Liam's friends, Liam Dempsey's friends, the friend had pointed out how he was having this existential question in his head. Are we in a simulation? What if we're a simulation within a simulation, referring to the Westworld game? Obviously, after just the first episode of this season and only the premiere episode, is far too early to completely extrapolate everything, but my early bets on this season and ideas for this season in terms of twists and turns is that the season is not actually taking place in the future that we think it is. This is not the future. This is another simulation. This is future world, and Dolores is presumably trying to get control of this part of the park of future world, and that's probably what Rehoboth is. And yeah, that's just my speculation though. We're gonna have an entire season to figure out if that's true. We'll see where it goes. So I'll wrap up the video for now. As always, thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the video and the episode in the comments below. And don't forget to click the bell for notifications so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Again, thanks for watching. See everyone soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.